Hey man, I told myself I was going to write about Quentin Tarantino and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, a fairy tale of sorts set in the good old days of 1969. Filthy hippies, murder and casual alcoholism, all the good stuff. Instead, I just kept staring at the computer screen and must have sat there for days, motionlessly, like some sort of weird Eskimo hovering over an ISO, waiting for a kill. Eventually, I started nodding off like a long-haul truck driver fantasizing about Warhammer 40k and those figurines of his, before passing out entirely. My head crashed right into the keyboard and music started playing. The Marshall Tucker Band, Solomon Burke and Buffalo Springfield. Songs about heading nowhere, fast or slow. Then, just like Gandalf, I strayed out of thought and time. The stars wheeled overhead and every day was as long as the life age of the earth. But it was not the end. I woke up with a groan, lying backside on my mattress. I turned around and noticed a strange cat, one I've never seen before, standing there in half stride, seemingly frozen in place. He must have been on his way out before I caught him by surprise. Maybe I wasn't supposed to wake up, or not just yet. We locked eyes, I blinked, and he was gone. Odd, I thought, and swung myself over the edge of my bed. In the vague distance, you could hear the muffled pop-pop of a kitty flap. I flicked a switch and blinded myself with a sudden burst of brightness. So at least I wasn't dreaming, I thought. By all accounts, it was a beautiful night, a few weeks short of winter. There was a full moon poking through the clouds, drawing shadows with reflections of the hidden sun. I wondered about the speed of light and Jared Leto, wearing his favorite elf outfit. 30 Seconds to Mars, wasn't that the name of his band? I finished up my toilet run and headed for the kitchen. How long would it take me to finish whatever I was writing, I wondered. Presumably a lot longer. Back with the computer, I was both pleasantly surprised and severely creeped out. I noticed the bizarre accumulation of thoughts and opinions in form of a mysterious text file, all roughly relating to my initial intent. Kind of. Just one of those enigmas, I suppose. Benefit of a peculiar type of brain damage hypercharged by sleep deprivation and blunt force trauma. Either or, it went something like this. Movies as a whole seem pretty subjective. Either you like them or you don't, never minding indifference. They make you feel a certain way and sometimes it's hard to pinpoint why exactly. Even bad movies still might have that little something, that certain je ne sais quoi, despite a shoestring budget, countless plot holes or just general unprofessionalism. And then there's that real stinker, high budget, something you've been told to like but you just don't, which might be quite the conundrum, socially speaking, resulting in us gaslighting each other about all kinds of stuff, like Brokeback Mountain, Schindler's List, Avatar or the Insane Clown Posse. Evidently, the subjectivity of art is connected to our sense of identity. A buzzword for sure, but go visit some art supply store and find one of those Weasley looking dudes, rocking a black turtleneck and a French beret. Ask him, so what movies do you like? Chances are he's going to say something along the lines of Paris, Texas by Wim Wenders, not goddamn Die Hard, even if by today's standards the first two Die Hards are borderline art house. But he doesn't care. It's just not what he's trying to be, and that's okay. In terms of Tarantino, there was a moment in time and space where you could just point at a stranger and tell that one likes Pulp Fiction, the kind of surface level, normie adjacent proto-hipster, trying to score cool guy points with some scene chick wearing black lip gloss, at least in that hallucination of his, which, weirdly enough, seems like a very Tarantino thing to do, approaching a fictitious partygoer, doing some random cameo appearance, and then rambling about the homosexual undertones of Top Gun, followed by everybody high-fiving each other and unhinged laughter. Someone yells cut, reality creeps in, and the illusion breaks down. You notice there isn't any women around, let alone big-titted goth girls or feisty redheads, just guys blowing each other, left and right. Then you notice a muscular man with a handlebar mustache, looking at you with concern, maybe even love. He asks, what's wrong? And that's when many self-proclaimed cineasts came to terms with their own homosexuality. Not that there's anything wrong with that, of course. Nevertheless, that's one of those Hollywood-style daydreams, something we as an audience are being encouraged to fantasize about, in various forms. Like that young Steven Seagal before he became a parody of himself. Dreams about casually crippling a bunch of Italian mobsters and yelling something about Bobby Lupo before smacking another dude with a cue ball in a gym sock. It's a power fantasy, like being that guy at that party. Granted, rambling about Pulp Fiction isn't quite as bad as unpacking that western guitar of yours and fumbling Stairway to Heaven, but still, you're going to be looked at differently, kind of sideways, like you smell bad, but spiritually. That said, at one point it became kind of cool to smite someone for the perceived pretentiousness of mentioning Tarantino's body of work, at least in certain contexts. Personally, I vaguely remember ending up in a friend of a friend's teenage bedroom, staring at a Seven Samurai poster and some dumb art installation made from soda cans. Guy even won some kind of award or whatever. Either or, while trying to break the ice, I pointed at Toshiro Mifune and mentioned something about director Akira Kurosawa, like him supposedly influencing Star Wars and George Lucas for that matter. You know, Hidden Fortress and such. He just smirked, paused for a moment and went like, ha, no way. Even if it was true, don't you think I would have heard about it? Ha ha ha. Before turning away with what seemed like an intentional display of passive aggression. Aye, so he shows violence, I thought. Long story short, last thing I remember was him moving out and becoming that guy, with that framed poster of Uma Thurman and such, presumably never finishing that movie script of his, which is fine, we all been that guy to a certain extent. Hell, I became something worse entirely, but anyhow, I understand the origins of that kind of allergic reaction. Makes me feel like an angry Joe Pesci repeatedly stabbing some blowhard in the neck with a bloody pencil. But then I guess many accusations are just admissions of guilt. Here's the thing though, Quentin Tarantino makes good movies despite their apparent popularity with wannabes like myself. Besides, it's fair to say that his work spawned a whole genre of Tarantino-esque copycat flicks, Suicide Kings, Swingers or Snatch, which is an excellent movie actually. Whereas the aforementioned backlash seems like a side effect of being successful. We don't merely define ourselves through things we like, but also through whatever we despise, sometimes to an extreme, thinking it's the hate that gives us personality, something that makes us unique. I'm ringing for words here, but yes, Tarantino might have flaws, as a director or maybe even as a person, who doesn't? But whatever Tarantino is or isn't, he seems genuinely in love with his idea of movies, the cinema, its history and filmmaking itself. I'd argue reducing his style to some sort of movie equivalent of turntablism seems to be missing the point, about as much as poorly imitating his voice, like his characters and them meandering about the meaning of Madonna songs, or aping Tarantino's proclivity towards graphic violence. The real lesson here is passion, being vocal and having opinions about things that actually matter, to you at least, not to someone else. Obviously, there's a little more to being successful than running your mouth, like actually stepping into the arena, having some talent and making connections and so on. Even then, success isn't a guarantee, far from it. But the way I see it, you can't win the lottery if you never buy a ticket. So don't wait for permission, go make it happen, and if it doesn't work out, fine, but it's your life. Chances are nobody cares but you. And that's the great thing about Tarantino. I assume at heart he's still that guy at the video store chit-chatting about movies. No icon, no meme director, but a lesson in what could have been. Some kind of inverted cautionary tale for the underdogs, you know, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.